Okay, got you. So, officially, welcome everyone to our Tuesday evening Spiritual Mind Healing Service. It is my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you here in our Zoom room and our very special guests on YouTube. We are hosting this evening our diaspora family. So I want to welcome each one of you, those who have also joined in here by Zoom and those who are on YouTube. And of course, I want to especially welcome our senior minister who is here with us this evening, Reverend Michelle Senegal. Thank you for being here, Rev. And our very special speaker, practitioner Ayodele McClenny. And we'll hear more about her later on. So welcome, Ayo. You are no stranger, so welcome home. Thank you for being here. And so as we do here at our center, we begin all things with an opening affirmative prayer. So could you please go within for a brief moment as we just tune in to this sacred space. We put down the cares of today, whatever we had to get through in our busy lives. Right here and right now, we cool our consciousness, recognizing the one power and presence, God, that which created each one of us out of itself and called it good. And so I know as we come together in this evening's spiritual mind healing service, I know that for every person who has allowed themselves to participate in this evening experience, that they are inspired, they're uplifted, and they're blessed. And so I know for our speaker this evening, practitioner Ayodele McClenny, that the words that she will bring to us are words that will enlighten and it will inspire and uplift us. So I know that every aspect of this evening service is now unfolding in right and perfect order. And I give thanks. I truly give thanks as I release this word to that infinite law of mine that has already said yes. Thank you, God, that this is so now. And so it is. And so, friends, as we become settled and we get started, this evening I'm going to start us off by sharing just some music for meditation music. And it's one from Karen Drucker that we are one of our favorites. And so I just ask you to take that deep breath within, go back within, close your eyes as we get ready to just listen to the words of this song. We just ask you to just contemplate these words.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I so grateful. I am so blessed.
Let me just breathe into this moment, recognizing how truly blessed we are this evening. And so as we take the time to bring our awareness back into this room, just gently open your eyes and be present right here and right now. Welcome back, friends. Indeed, we are so blessed this evening. We are blessed because we are here together in this sacred space, and we're entertaining amongst us our very special guests, our family from the diaspora, and indeed our special speaker this evening, who I told you is no stranger to us, because practitioner Ayodele McClenny has actually visited with us here in Jamaica. So she was at our retreat just a little over 2 years ago. But outside of that, you need to know a little bit more about her. So she is a licensed practitioner with CSL Columbia, and she's a past member of the CSL Leadership Council. She was a director there, or practitioner representative. And in addition, she is qualified with strategic initiatives and business development with Johns Hopkins University. But outside of all of this, what she has said is most important to her is that she is the mother of 2 adult children, and she has her longtime partner. So I want to specially welcome Ayodele with us today. We call her Ayo for short. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. Welcome, Ayo. Waiting with bated breath to hear you. Over to you.
So much, Jennifer. You're such a doll. And I just want to start this evening by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the practitioner for making space for me to spend tonight, and to the ecclesiastical team for the warm and generous welcome. The title of my talk, and by the way, whenever I give a talk, I love that there are people who are willing to listen, but I'm really talking to myself. You all have this all under control. This is about me. So the title of my talk is Let the Way You Live Be the World You Believe In. And I'll be sharing my reflections on the Centers for Spiritual Living's global vision, specifically the verse that reads as follows. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. Now, if you aren't familiar with the global vision, you can find it on the csl.org or org website. And I really encourage you to periodically, at least, go back and revisit it, because when I revisit it, it reminds me of what it is that I have committed to teaching as a practitioner, the way that we move the world to a world that works for everyone. So my talk is going to include personal stories, insights, and a little bit of spirit of truth healing, and hopefully we'll have shared growth. I will commit that my talk tonight reflects my growth, and I invite you to jot down any thoughts or questions that come up in your mind tonight as I'm chatting along, and I'll leave some time, and I welcome reflections or dialogues. Dialogue. And I just want to thank everyone for being present here tonight. And as I was preparing for tonight, I used the Science of Mind textbook. Honestly, I refer to it more often than I want to admit. And I really enjoy using the glossary, and you're going to hear that as I go through my talk tonight. And I decided to look up the word perception in the textbook glossary. And I came back with the definition of perceive, which was close enough for me. Perceive is to see, used in connection with the act of seeing with the physical eye, also used to convey comprehension by the mind. So in Io's terms, it means we can see with our eyes and also understand or realize with our mind. Now, the glossary is the definition of terms. And so I encourage you to use the glossary whenever you're reading the Science of Mind textbook, or just thinking about words that you use in your everyday language. Now, why does perceive or perception matter to me? Well, it's because if we're serious about creating a world that works for everyone, then how we perceive the world, what we choose to notice, to understand, and to believe is deeply connected to how we live. The way we live becomes a reflection of what we perceive to be true. So when I say, let the way you live be the world you believe in, I'm asking, what do you see when you look at the world, Aya? What do you understand about your place in it, Aya? And how does your life express that understanding? Well, so I put those questions to myself, and then I looked into my world. I'm going to share a little bit of a story, and hopefully you'll see what I came to see. And if you don't, that's okay. So I have two sons, two adult sons. My oldest son is 37. His name is Robert, and Robert lives with schizophrenia. And for those of you who may not know what that is what's defined as a serious mental illness. And there are lots of different things that go into it, but essentially, the way his brain connects the circuits is a little different from the way my non-schizophrenia brain does. And if you've ever loved someone whose mind or brain is ill or atypical, as they say, you'll know that sometimes what they see, even what they feel physically or what they believe, doesn't match what majority of the rest of the world agrees is real. There were times when Robert would say things that really startled me, confused me, or scared me. Not because they were threatening, but because they were different than my experience of the world. And my first instinct, my natural mom instinct, was to bring him back to what I believe to be the truth, because I wanted him to put it on. So I try to explain or correct or maybe protect him from what he was experiencing. Of course, the truth was always just my perception of the world, because I thought that love meant helping him see my or the normal reality that the rest of the world was supposedly living in, helping him come back to my version of the world, which of course, guess what? I was so confident that my version was the truth, was what was really happening out there. But over time, through trial, through tears, through prayer, I began to understand something deeper, that his perception is real to him, and that his reality, while different from mine, deserves respect. And that love doesn't always mean fixing. Let me say that again. Love doesn't always mean fixing. Sometimes love means sitting beside someone in the world they're experiencing and just offering presence and not solution. That was a shift for me with regard to perception. I went from fear to trust, from control to compassion, from trying to change someone else to allowing myself to be changed. And here's the truth. When I started seeing him differently, I started seeing myself differently too. I stopped measuring love by outcomes, and I started measuring it by presence, by the quiet courage it takes to choose connection over certainty. At least that's my plan. Remember, everything is a practice, and we are all what? Practitioners. I think my example shows that living the world we believe in isn't abstract. It's actually a moment by moment spiritual practice, especially with the people we love the most. So I hope you can see the nuance of perception, the courage of care, and the faith it takes to choose love. Faith becomes stronger when it's lived out loud. And how we show up in families, workplaces, boardrooms, classrooms, communities. That's why this global vision speaks to me so deeply. And here's what shifted. I didn't expect myself to be the solution. I didn't expect a solution even. I just expect to stay rooted in love. And so now I'm practicing a new kind of presence, one where I offer support when asked, not when assumed. One where I do not confuse control with love. One where I remember that my life too deserves spaciousness and joy, even as I remain connected to his. I carry faith that he's being guided. Faith that his soul has its own path. Faith that letting go does not mean abandonment. Oh, I think I forgot to tell you all the definition of faith. Faith is when our mind and our actions are so aligned, they're so clear, it's so acting as one that there is no question that it is right. That is faith. So as I move along in this story, I began to notice that my idea of responsibility was starting to limit them. I wasn't offering support anymore. I was controlling his outcomes. And this was all a part of my kind of coming to understand my role in creating a world that works for, in this case, Myra and Robert as a unified team. I mean, as a mother, I've always felt responsible for my children, not just emotionally, but practically, spiritually, even morally. And when you have a child with a mental health diagnosis, that responsibility can feel so heavy. I used to believe that my job was to hold everything together, his health, his appointments, his safety, his future. But again, when I went to look in the science of my textbook, it told me that faith is a mental attitude so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. Faith is not just about believing things will get better someday. Faith is the deep embodied knowing that how we live matters now. Faith asks, do I live as if connection is more powerful than separation? Do I live as if love can still transform? Do I trust that small actions, quiet choices, carry sacred weight? I think these are the kinds of questions that my faith asks me. I'd be curious to know what questions your faith asks you. Going back to the global vision, and I said I really wanted to pay attention to the verse that reads, "We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness." Now, I just shared how Io's emerging consciousness was demonstrated through faith, through perception. Now I want to focus on responsibility. Because remember, it says, we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience. Responsibility means that once we perceive clearly and once we hold faith deeply, we act accordingly. We are congruent. It's not about saving the world alone. It's about doing just my part for me and you doing your own part, using your own gifts. Maybe your part is to raise children with kindness. Maybe it's to create just policies in your workplace. Maybe yours is to make beautiful art that brings forth emotion in everyone who sees it. For me, and I'm constantly asking myself questions, I don't know about you, I ask myself, am I living in a way that reflects the world I say I believe in? Sometimes I'm not. And when I'm not, and I notice I'm not, I've got to get back on point. And going back to the examples with Robert that I talked about, the fact that it's a practice, there are many days that I forget everything I told you all that I do. When I see that, when I recognize that, when I feel it in my body that something's not in alignment, then I can get back to point and get back to remembering that he has the ability to be in his own reality as I have the ability to be in my reality. That's why the vision calls us into personal responsibility joined with social conscience. Not one or the other, but both together. Responsibility and compassion, truth and tenderness, self-awareness and systemic change. That's the sacred dance. And when we commit to it as individuals, as families, friends, members of communities, nations, imagine the world. When enough of us commit to it, we don't just imagine that world. We build it, we live it, we rejoice in it. As we practice this in our homes and communities, we bring it more into the political scene, into our corporate and our academic and our social sectors, not as theory, but as embodied truth. That's how we create sustainable structures. That's how we nurture global consciousness. And that's how the world we envision becomes the world that we live. Let the way you live be the world you believe in. That's the kind of responsibility that I personally aim for. And I ask any of you, point me out when you see me moving off point. Sometimes I might be a little persnickety. Sometimes I might just thank you, and I'm always very grateful. Whether you see it or not, know that it's in the heart. My reflections on love and living our beliefs. remind me of the mothers that I grew up around, the aunties and the elders. And so I found a poem that I want to share a little bit with you. Lorna Goodison captures this so beautifully in her poem, For the Mother, May I Inherit Half Her Strength. So I just want to read just a little bit. I'm sure it's not going to sound as eloquent as if she were here, but I'm going to read it from my heart. For my mother, may I inherit half her strength. My mother loved my father, who could do no wrong. He cooked, cleaned, sewed, gardened, made home and made do, quietly shouldering the weight of 5 children and 1 man who, though not cruel, expected service, and she gave it. She loved her God and prayed ceaselessly. When I hear those words, I don't just hear her mother's strength. I hear the strength of a world rooted in personal responsibility during the spiritual conscious. This is what sustainable structures look like. Love in motion, faith made visible, strength passed through presence. You don't need a grand platform, just your presence, just your willingness to live what you believe. When I think about the kind of responsibility that joins with conscious, not control, I think of some words that are attributed to Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who's no longer on this plane, but these are the words that I believe are attributed to him. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. I can just kind of hear him just sort of like rocking on his feet, sort of saying that. I just love the little pearls that he would give. Oh, if we had only known what we have, then we hadn't here. So as I move to close, I have a few things that I want to leave you with. But first, I want you to take a breath and imagine what it would look like to show up differently. Just think of a situation in your life, at home, at work, or even in your spiritual community where you may feel challenged or unsure. Imagine what it would look like to show up differently. What would it mean to perceive that situation with fresh eyes? How might you bring faith into that moment? Not certainty, but trust. And what would personal responsibility look like for you? Not fixing everything, but showing up as your highest self. Let that image settle in your mind. You don't need to solve anything tonight. Just be willing to see it. So I leave you with that. And I also would like us to do a small affirmative call and response. And I'm going to share my screen. And sharing my screen. And of course, you're seeing on the other group on my screen. But this is what I want you to see. This is our closing affirmation, and then the tradition of my spiritual upbringing. We're going to do call and response. So I will do a call, and everybody else will do the yellow highlighted. You don't need to say response. And if you don't want to unmute, that's fine. Say it wherever you are. We're doing it together. And here we begin. When I perceive the world with clarity,
I see through the eyes
I
of love.
when I live by faith,
I
trust
trust that
my
Spirit
spirit is
is
unfolding
unfolding in me.
in me.
When I take responsibility,
I
I
choose to respond with care and courage.
and courage.
when I join personal responsibility with social conscience,
I
help
help
build
build a
a
world
world
that works for
for
everyone.
everyone.
let the way I live
Be the world
Be the
I
world
believe
I
in.
believe in.
so.
And so it is.
I want to thank you all for your time, for your participation. I welcome any ideas and thoughts because I'm still growing in this practice of science of mind. And I just care so much about the world and I try to make a difference. And I know you do too. Thank you, Jennifer.
Are more than welcome. Thank you, Ayo. And so I'm going to open it up to anyone who has any feedback for Ayo this evening, your thoughts. Please feel free to share that at this time.
My hand is raised.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
So Io, what I wanted to ask is, since you've had this internal shift from control to presence, how has Robert responded?
That's a wonderful question. So, just as I have made the shift in stages, he's responded in stages. So he started by trying to inspire the same sort of interactions we've been having because that was comfortable. Then he began to try different ways to respond. See if he could figure out where the new boundaries. And so now what I see, because we've been practicing this now for a couple of years, now what I see is more confidence. He'll ask for my opinion, for my guidance, whereas before he didn't. And I see the blossoming of independence and willingness to engage in support mechanisms that before he wasn't willing to. So I see growth. He's probably grown more than I have. I've been a bit resistant to the whole thing. Thank you for asking that.
Anyone else has anything that they wish to share? You're about to say
I have
something,
some
Ayo.
questions.
Sure, go ahead. Let's hear
Yeah,
it.
so I'm going to assume that my talk landed well. And I'm going to assume that my talk was logically laid out. And I'm going to ask if there is someone who's willing to say where they are stepping into their own individual power, using their faith and taking personal responsibility for uplifting consciousness in today's world. I want to know. The reason I want to know is because every spot of light multiplies my courage. So
Willing
I
to
just stand
share.
from a point of unconditional love, irrespective of the person's differences or challenges. I just stand from a standpoint of unconditional love. And from that standpoint, I think that it helps the person to thrive and just be themselves in their own unique way. And just to be their highest best self.
Love that, Sheena. So would you be willing to share a little bit about how your perspective may have been changed as a result of this action you've taken so boldly?
Well, I have a daughter myself, and you have to raise her. And this generation is quite a bit different from mine. And so I have realized that in my generation, we mostly have to be obedient, seen but not heard. And this generation tends to be more outspoken. So instead of trying to shut her down, I've learned from that standpoint just to be open up and just let her be herself, not to follow everything.
Terrific. Thank you.
So wise.
This is Lilith. This talk is really timely for me. I just finished writing a 6-page document articulating my opinions regarding a company in which I am a director and a shareholder. And I think being critical in terms of commenting on certain issues related to the company. Now, this talk is very, very timely because I shall go back to the 6 pages, and I think I will now go back to cover everything I've said with the mantle of responding with care and courage. I don't want to minimize the courage, but perhaps there is not enough of the care. So, very timely. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lilith. I think that is so marvelous, first of all, that you are clear on your role in this situation. You're very clear about the perspective. You are that of a member of the board and a shareholder. And that's the most powerful thing when speaking to a business. So thank you.
Anybody else wants to share?
I think it's very important that I think that when you said, how are you showing up in the world? That for me is a lot of food for thought. How are you showing up? It made me want to reflect, look back at relationships, look back at decisions made, why those decisions were made. And also what effect it has had on other people. Have I been swayed by other people? Have I been concerned too much about possible outcomes? And that has influenced my decisions. That I want to look good in the eyes of people, so you make certain decisions. So I think just that frame of how am I showing up in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it packs a lot because it really makes you, if you're serious, it makes you think about, are you showing up with your authentic self? Or are you showing up as you think other people want to see you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading something today about a lot of the African American community, particularly women, not showing up the way they really are, their authentic selves, because of fear of being, um, you know, um, being perceived to be too aggressive, or being perceived to be overly strong, And so a lot of people don't show up as their authentic selves. And that for me is, and maybe we are all guilty of it. And at some point, maybe some of us are not showing up as our authentic selves with our families. Sometimes we're not showing up as our authentic selves with our partners. And for others, it's the world outside. It could be on the job, in the school community. So that reflection, I think, is very, very important. How are we showing up? And maybe why are we showing up?
Yeah, so Beverly, I really, really feel as if you should have given the talk, okay? Because you've done such an excellent job. One thing I want to suggest for consideration, let's remember that we are still human beings. Right? And so what Ernest Holmes, or Ernie, as the young people like to call him, he is about teaching us how to be human beings.
Mhm,
Because we are spiritual beings and we're trying to figure out
mhm,
this human being part.
mhm.
So the journey to authenticity is just that. And the more we learn, the more we can be authentic. And I would say that personally, my authentic self is continuously evolving.
Mhm.
What I thought was authentic was until I learned it wasn't.
Mm.
And I think it's so
Mhm.
important to give ourselves that compassion
Mhm.
as we do the growing.
Mhm.
Yes, I
Mhm.
feel as you, and one of the toughest things for me, if you go back to my stories, was accepting someone else's authentic self in my space. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's one thing to accept my own, but then to accept other people's too. That's asking a lot.
Mhm.
But that's what we have to do if we're on our way to creating this world that works for everyone. Ourselves first.
Mhm.
Okay. If we have no other questions, or we don't have anything further we want to share with our speaker this evening, then I'm going to invite you to Rev. Before I move on, Rev Michelle, is there anything that you'd like to share with us? Because we have our special group of friends participating in this evening's Spiritual Mind Healing Service. You're muted, Rev.
No, I was just going to let you all know that once we depart here, we will be having our own debrief
Right.
and process. The goal and the objective is to create a beloved virtual community with the diaspora. So we are grateful that we have this talk as our focal point for our debrief. So thanks, Ayo, for saying yes.
Thank you. So we're going to move into that section. And so I want to especially thank Ayo this evening for being here with us as a speaker. I know she too will be departing as we move into our requests for Spiritual Mind Healing Service. Our prayer requests, you can put them in the chat. You can share them with me. Those of us who will remain, you can also put your request if you have any special requests. You're welcome to do so, but I do know that there was going to be a further debriefing with the diaspora group. So if persons are going to be leaving us at this point in time, in the meantime, we will continue this evening service with our prayer requests. Thank you so much again, Ayo. Really grateful to you for being here. Thank you. Ladies. Bev, you're muted. I'm not hearing you. Okay. Please go ahead and put your request in the chat, and I will continue with the affirmative prayers.
Okay.
Okay, there are 2 requests so far. And Rev has given a request to the diaspora to please go ahead and join the other Zoom room. Okay. And so
Okay, I hope
Go
I can
ahead.
do that, Jennifer. The other Zoom,
Sure. You would have had a link from her.
I have it, but I'm gonna
Good.
try.
So just sign out, just leave this one,
Okay,
and then you go and click on that one. Okay.
okay. Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for being a part of this evening's service.
Thank you from Toronto.
You are more than welcome. Yes, happy to have you.
Thank you, Jennifer, from New York.
From New York. So New York is also leaving me. Is that
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I surround everyone with love and peace.
You are more than welcome, Auntie Lil. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And so as our other members depart from this chat, I am going to be doing the prayer requests as they have come in. There's a request for peace. The first one is peace, and there is one for prosperity for the Roden family, and there's a right action in a legal matter. So as you continue to put your request in the chat, I'm just going to start off first with right action. And for anyone else who is open and receptive to this treatment of right action, for Akeem, it's in a legal matter, but it can be right action for anything that you are needing. I just invite you now to join with me as we take that journey within, recognizing that presence and power, God, that which created each one of us out of itself and called it good. I am knowing that as I speak this word for Akeem this evening, I am knowing that his request for right action is already taking place in through and as every idea and every activity in his life. And so I know that very especially his request for right action in a legal matter, I know that that presence and power, which is God, is now constituting every decision and every idea that is necessary for the perfect outcome of this situation. I know for Akeem and for anyone else who is open and receptive to this affirmative prayer of right action, I am knowing that God's activity is always the one activity that is operating in through and as each one of us. And so as we allow ourselves to be guided and directed, I am knowing that that activity is even now unfolding in right and perfect order. I know this to be the truth for Akeem and for anyone else who is open to this affirmative prayer of right action. And feeling the fullness of this faith, I joyously release this word to that infinite law of mind that has already said yes. Thank you, God, that this is so now, and so it is. And I will move on to an affirmative prayer of peace and prosperity for the Roden family. As we take a moment to just breathe, we breathe into that sacred space, recognizing that presence that is God. It is that presence that is now appearing for the Roden family in particular, and for each one of us individually and all of us collectively. It is that presence of peace. And in this knowing, I know that that peace that passeth all understanding is guiding every activity that surrounds the Roden family this evening. I know for them that that peace quiets their hearts and their minds as they know what to do and they know how to do it. We just let peace permeate through every cell, tissue, and fiber of their being, through every activity, through every interaction. I know that it is peaceful, for they are calm, serene, and centered in God. And so I know that that peace that attends each one of us is right now surrounding them in peace and harmony. And it is from that place of peace that I also speak this word of a prosperity for the Roden family who has made this request. And more importantly, for anyone who is open and receptive to this affirmative prayer of prosperity. I know that God is abundance, and that abundance surrounds each one of us. And so I know that that is poured into our experience as we open ourselves up to receive. And I know that this is the truth for the Roden family, that that prosperity which is God is now overflowing into their experience, filling their pocketbooks, filling their accounts, filling every need, because before they ask, they will be answered, and while they're yet speaking, they're heard. So I know that that prosperity now pours itself all throughout their experience. And so I know that every need and every desire is fulfilled at the moment that that request is given. And I know that that prosperity flows out into their experience. They have enough to share and enough to spare as they live in a world of pure opulence and prosperity. We give thanks for that unending stream of prosperity that is now flowing into their experience and into the existence of each one of us within the sound of my voice. I know that that prosperity allows us to do what we need to do at the moment that we need to do it. And I know that this is the truth for the Roden family. So we give thanks for this outpouring of peace and prosperity into and as their experience this evening, as I joyously release this word to law, giving thanks that all this is already so, and so it is. And from that place of peace and prosperity, there is an affirmative prayer request for health from Dawn and from everyone else, anyone else who is open and receptive to this affirmative prayer of health. And I will include in this prayer an affirmative prayer of health for Carl. In this moment, I'm recognizing that perfect presence. God, I am knowing that we are one with this perfect presence. And in this knowing, I speak this word for Dawn and for Carl as an affirmative prayer of health. I know that the health of God is now outpicturing in through and as their experience this evening. And so as they allow themselves to be a channel through which this health is now outpicturing in their experience, I know that anything that needs to be put right is being put right. I know that that healing touch is now pouring into their experience, removing any discomfort or dis-ease. And I'm knowing that the perfect health of God now flows through their body temples, touching into wholeness, touching into perfection, all that is necessary to be put right in this moment. So we give thanks for that outpouring of health in through and as the experience of Dawn and of Carl, and for anyone else who is open and receptive to this affirmative prayer of health. God is our health, and I know that that health is now picturing in through and as each one of us this evening as strength, as vitality, as vigor, as energy. I give thanks. I truly give thanks for that vibrant health, which is now picturing Intron as their experience and the experience of all of us here. Thank you, God, that this is so now, and so it is. I am not, is there any prayer requests coming from YouTube? Not seeing any other requests in the chat. And so if not,
None from you.
I will just close off with an affirmative prayer of love for each one of us this evening and close out our prayer requests. God is love. That love surrounds us. In that love, we safely dwell. It's above, beneath, within us. God is love, and all is well. And I speak this word of love for each one of us individually and all of us collectively, and for our community, the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. We just let love be the way of our hearts and the heart of our way as it guides us now throughout the remainder of this week. I know that God is love, and all of that love is now pouring into our experience. And so we go through our way, loving, lovable, and love. I give thanks. I truly give thanks as I lovingly release this word to law, knowing that love is that which is surrounding our community and our island home, Jamaica. And we are just nestled in the loving arms of this Creator. Thank you, God, that this is so now. And so it is. And friends, this evening, I am going to just share a few brief reminders. So please join me now as we do our reminders for this evening. Let me put this into slideshow. So we had our welcome for any first-time guests, and this was very especially for the members of our diaspora who was sharing in our evening service. But welcome to anyone of you on YouTube who is still there. And just the brief reminders that every Tuesday, concurrently, we can also join in to our weekly grief support group. It happens in person on Tuesday at 6 p.m. in the book room at the temple, and it's facilitated by Lorraine Jones, who is a certified grief facilitator. So please check that out if you are grieving the loss of someone close to you or even a job and you just don't know how to go it alone. Make use of this group support. And then, of course, on Thursday, this is a reminder for Prayer Power that happens every Thursday at 6 p.m. The Zoom link can be found on our Facebook page, and it can also be accessed by contacting the office. And then Friday, this Friday being Labor Day, Friday, May 23rd, please join us at the temple from 8:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. for THC Thrive in 2025. And you'll learn about tea, herbs, and container gardening. So please come on out to the temple this Friday at 8:30 a.m. and be a part of this THC Thrive in 2025. And then please remember that June 1st is our thank you to our volunteers. It's our Volunteer Appreciation Sunday, and we'll be celebrating the incredible individuals who generously give of their time, talent, and treasure to our spiritual community. So be present in our Sunday service on Sunday, June 1st. And of course, I am reminding you that our Family Fun Day is scheduled for July 12th at Canoka Falls and Parks. And of course, there is a list. It will be also out on Sunday again for you to put your names down because we need to create get our numbers up, and we also need to have a deposit in order to secure our booking. So please remember, Saturday, July 12th, please be there. And then, of course, next Tuesday, please join us for another Spiritual Mind Healing service. And next Tuesday, practitioner Chima Alcock will be our speaker. And so, friends, if you wish to support our ministry financially, we have several payment options available to you. What you need to know is if you visit donate.templeoflightcsl.org, you will be able to avail yourself of all these payment methods and choose which is most convenient for you. So as you prepare to make your donations for this evening's service using any one of those options at donate.templeoflightcsl.org, I invite you now to join me in our love offering blessing. And together we affirm, lovingly I give, joyfully I receive. Be thou fruitful, increase and multiply. Bless, prosper, and enrich everyone whom you touch, and replenish all of my financial affairs. Thank you, Father, and so it is. And so I'd like you to join me in the prayer for our center. The Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living is a sacred field embodying our spiritual community from which the Christ's peace, love, and joy emanate, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, and to liberate anyone who comes into contact with it in any way. The light of the Christ illumines us, our center, and our environment. Our spiritual community is filled with and surrounded by the presence of God and is growing from strength to strength. The power of God expands our consciousness of truth, guiding us ceaselessly along the paths of wisdom, spiritual growth, unfoldment, and attainment. We are blessed, and to God be the honor and the glory forever. And so it is. And now please join me in the prayer for Jamaica. The radiant light of God's love is now flowing through us and from us to everything and everyone it touches. The eternal light of God's love now completely fills, covers, and surrounds our island, Jamaica. The glowing intensity of the light of God's love now interpenetrates and awakens within the hearts and minds of our countrymen and women the truths of life which set free. The light of God's love is growing and glowing in intensity in the hearts and minds of mankind everywhere. Love, health, harmony, goodwill, peace, uprightness, integrity, joy, prosperity, kindness, and our oneness under God are now established, and so it is. And now, friends, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for sharing your consciousness as I ask you to join me in our closing affirmative prayer. So we give thanks. We truly give thanks for this shared experience this evening of this which we call a Spiritual Mind Healing service. We give thanks for our speaker, Ayodele. We give thanks for all the persons from our diaspora who participated in this evening service. And we give thanks for each one of us who chose to be here this evening in this Spiritual Mind Healing service. I know that as we leave from this place, we take this consciousness with us. And I know that we each commit to letting the way we live be the world that we believe in. And so I know each one of us take this commitment as we go through the remainder of this week, as we go to our separate and several destinations this evening. We give thanks for each other, and we give thanks for our coming together as I lovingly release this word to that infinite law of mind. Thank you, God, that this is so now, and so it is. Friends, I just want to thank you for being here this evening with us for our Spiritual Mind Healing service. And thank you again for sharing of your consciousness and of course, your tithes and your treasure. See you all next week, same time, same place.